here in Long Beach, Indiana, on the southern end of Lake Michigan. If there was one thing Sarah loved, it was bonfires on the water. She also loved this house. So I don't have a particular memory, just wanted to share that, and I'm sure she'd be loving this.
Hi, I'm Mary, Sarah's mom. Most of you know me already, I think. I was asked to say a few words about Sarah, and when I'm asked to do that, all I can think of is how mischievous she was. She was mischievous since before she could walk, and she was always in the middle of whatever was going on. Anyway, one time we were having a dinner party, and adults only, and there was no noise coming from Sarah's room. So we knew right there that something was amiss. So I went up the stairs, and as I went up the stairs, I looked down and saw toilet paper. And what she had done was gone and gotten a roll of toilet paper and stuffed the end of it in her mouth and then crawled through the hole upstairs with the toilet paper hanging behind her. So by the time we got up there was toilet paper everywhere. And that's the kind of thing that my mischievous little daughter would do again and again. She always wanted to discover what made things work.
That girl loved April Fool's Day. I swear it might have been her favorite day of the year. And if she ever got you in an April Fool's joke, she did not let you forget it. So this year, I cannot believe she ended up getting me. She told me that she was pregnant, and it took me all of a few minutes, but in that time, she got me. And all right, maybe less than a few minutes until I figured it out, but she would have held that over me for a long time.
I have a funny story from when Sarah was probably 3 or 4. We were shopping, me and Mom and my sister, and we were in this clothing store. And I only have a vague memory of this because we were pretty little, but we were, kind of bored following Mom around as she looked for an outfit for something. And after a few minutes, she said, "Where's Sarah?" And we looked all around, couldn't find her anywhere. All right. Well, she was always kind of cheeky, so we were running up and down aisles, trying to find her. She was nowhere in the store. I'm sure Mom was starting to panic, and I was just trying to help find her. So after a long, long time, we went outside the store, and in the window, we find her posing with the other mannequins. So, yeah, she had decided to become a cheeky mannequin herself. And we had a lot of laughs about that one. Luckily, we found her. I'm sure Mom was very relieved.
One of my favorite Aunt Sarah adventures was when we went to the Stanley Hotel, which is where The Shining was filmed. I was with Aunt Sarah, Lauren, and Pierce, and we're on vacation in Colorado Springs, and we saw the Stanley Hotel, and it was closed for repairs, but Aunt Sarah offered to be the lookout while Lauren, Pierce, and I found an entrance. And we did find an entrance and went inside, explored, and we even ended up helping out other people get inside who were doing the same thing as us.
And I would like to share some of the pranks that I've received from Sarah over the years. The most recent one I remember was when Sarah came to visit me in Port Washington with Lauren and Pierce, and I think Michael was with her too. And they had just gone through Mary's house in Mequon, and they were going through some of her things, and they found this really scary, ugly old doll. And she left it on my doorstep, rang the doorbell, and they all took off running and parked on the street just to see what my reaction was of this crazy doll. Another one would be from growing up. I used to really like Cookie Monster, and I had lots of Cookie Monster stuffed animals. And I once found that her and our other friend Anne had put my Cookie Monster in the oven and turned the oven on, and he had like charred burn marks on his fur. They also once cut him open and stuck an egg inside and smashed the egg inside my Cookie Monster. And some other ones I remember were from German class, where she once took my backpack and threw it out the window, and it landed on the roof of another floor of our high school, and I had to crawl out the window to go retrieve my backpack.
Hi, my name is Lauren. I'm Sarah's daughter. Most of you probably know that. But I wanted to share one memory. I mean, you guys, all the things that you were sharing, they're so nice to hear. Honestly, it's really nice to hear some things that I didn't know most of the time. A lot of funny memories that I had also forgotten about, relived. But I wanted to say something about my mom is that she loved pool floaties. Like quite literally was obsessed with pool floaties. And we always had one for every single occasion and in many different forms. And we would bring them to our vacations in Mexico or in Florida, and we could never take them back because they wouldn't fit in our suitcases. And she just said we'd leave them for the cleaning ladies of the hotel because they could probably use it. They had kids, it was fine. She just wanted us to leave them. But I also wanted to show this picture. It's one of my favorite pictures that we've ever taken on a giant swan floaty, which was iconic. If you guys know, the giant swan floaty was the best thing I think she ever bought in her life, because it had several holes in it. Did not work, but we used it anyways. And that thing was probably the only thing that ever made it out of a trip or out of a hotel room. And I think we still have it somewhere in our garage. But there was a pizza one, there was a cupcake one, just pool floaties. She was obsessed with pool floaties, even though we could never take them home with us. But yeah, it's a nice little fun memory.
We were on vacation all in one house as a big family, and there weren't enough beds for Michael, my son, who was 10. So never fear, Aunt Sarah is here. She has, of course, her own air pump and, an extra pool floaty on hand. So she blows up a pool floaty for Michael, which she was very proud was complete with a cup holder, and that was his bed.
Aunt Sarah was the quintessential fun aunt. I'll always remember making gingerbread houses with her as a kid. I was probably 10 years old, and I remember her asking if I liked someone. My face must have turned so red. I also seem to recall her eating a few more pieces of candy than we were allowed that day.
So I recall hanging out one afternoon in Sarah's bedroom in high school and stumbling upon this notebook full of sketches. And I was reading through them, and they were hilarious. And I asked her what this was, and she's like, oh, when my sisters and I are bored on vacation, we like to come up with potential sketches or skits that could be on Saturday Night Live. The one that I recall reading about was about this man named Sunburn Man who never wore sunscreen and always would get sunburned when he'd go out in the sun, and was just this constant shade of red. It was hilarious and definitely something that I could see Heidi, Lindsay, and Sarah doing.
Sarah had a real habit of crashing my vacations that I was on that are either with my wife or with other friends. So this was a common occurrence. It started, well, I don't even remember when it started, but some memorable ones. Our engagement, she was there. She showed up right after. One that I particularly remember, several in Colorado. Anytime I came to Colorado, she would, and it's funny, right? She wouldn't be like, oh yeah, let's meet up, blah, blah, blah. She would just be in the lobby at wherever I was. And, so here's one. We go to London. We go to the St. Pancras in London. And I'm with Kara and her family. And we show up and check into the hotel. Well, who's next to me checking into the desk next to me? My sister Sarah. What a coincidence. I mean, you know what? It's just, I never told her this. I wish I could have, but it was great. It made me feel especially when I'm in a place that's foreign and in London, to see my sister there made me feel great. So that was a great thing she did.
Hey everyone, I remember one time me, Sarah, and the kids went out of the restaurant. We came to the car. Sarah is trying to start the car. Nothing happened. We're trying to look. We're trying to understand what's wrong. Until suddenly Lauren is saying, hey, it's not the car. It's not our car. We were there maybe for 5 minutes. The car was open. It looks exactly like Sarah's car. Remember, we ran away, and then we're looking at Sarah's car. It was funny. It happened more than one time.
I'm Sarah's cousin Peggy, and there are things that Sarah has said over the years that are stuck in my brain, and I think of on an almost daily basis. One of them was her observation that if you're ever putting your hair in a ponytail and it doesn't work out the first time, give it up. If the first ponytail attempt isn't what you had in your mind as far as what it was going to look like, you're never going to achieve it on subsequent ponytail tries. So just give it up and wear your hair down.
So we went to outdoor ed in 7th grade where we had to stay overnight in a cabin. And there was a group of us girls who decided to sneak out of the cabin. And Sarah was wearing these shiny black leggings. And if you can just picture her skinny legs in those leggings running. And as we were leaving, one of the moms caught us and said something to the effect like, I see you in those shiny black leggings. And it so happened to be the next morning when we were eating breakfast in the mess hall that another girl was wearing the exact same leggings that Sarah had been wearing the night before, the shiny leggings. And that girl actually took the blame for us sneaking out. So that is just a funny memory that I have that will stick with me for a long time. Enjoy.
Hi, I'm Taylor. I'm Melissa's daughter, and the memory I have of Sarah is when Sarah, Lauren, and Pierce came over to our house, and we went downtown. There was this little area with like a gazebo, some benches, and the rocks, which were near the lake. So we were all coming on the rocks, and our mom were like talking and like just laughing, and we were like, don't get too close. Like you can put your feet in the water if you take your shoes off. So Lauren, there's like a really mossy rock. She was like, okay, I'm gonna climb on this one. I want to feel the water. Then she slipped into the water and just completely was like dunked into the water. It was like to her neck. And so basically she's like, oh, I needed it anyway when she got out because it was like cold. It was like a really hot day outside. And then she's like, oh shoot, I have my phone in my back pocket. So she had her phone in her pocket. So I was like, oh shoot. And then Sarah had to rush to a store to get her new clothes because Lauren's were all soaking wet. That's my memory.
Hi, I'm Molly's daughter, and I knew Auntie Sarah from my mom. They were best friends, they always hung out together, so we would always be there with her. And she was so welcoming and kind. She'd always share lots of jokes and laughs and funny stories with us. One of my favorite memories that I had with Auntie Sarah was probably when we had a sleepover together, and we tried making this fireplace, this electric fireplace, and it just like wouldn't work. We assembled it so many times, over and over. Like, we disassembled it, and we couldn't even get it to work at the end, and we just wanted to roast some marshmallows. But overall, we just went and watched the show and had fun no matter what, and just shared a lot of laughs. We also made pizza, and it did get cooked fully. So Auntie Sarah got sick, and we just shared a lot of laughs and happy moments together.
Hey, my name is Missy White, and this is Champagne. She loved making fun of me for that. And I just wanted to share about the first time that I met Sarah. We were in youth dance together. We were probably about 10 years old, and both of us were assigned the parts of the rats in the production of the Nutcracker. And so we were just sitting off to the side, kind of waiting our turn, and there was another girl there that had a solo dance, and she was practicing very, very seriously in front of the mirror and practicing her jumps and her dance. And I just remember Sarah whispering something over to me, just kind of making fun of the fact of how seriously she was taking it. And then that was when I knew we were going to be instant friends, and we were.
Hello, I have many memories of Sarah during her high school years, stopping over at the house. Some of them include her making fun of my decorative flags and my picket fence outside our house, and her request for peanut butter puppy chow whenever she walked in the door. And then there's the story, which I won't go into details, but it involved Marissa hiding in an actual doghouse inside the kennel in the backyard of Sarah's house, and ended up with also a trip to the police station. A more recent memory I have of Sarah is when Mark retired. We received a text asking if this meant that she lost her good parking place behind City Hall for Fish Day celebrations. So Sarah-like.
My memories of Sarah revolve around the many happy times that our families spent together as our children were growing up. Many Christmases I remember Sarah, Lindsay, and Heidi. Kyle wasn't even thought of at that point, sitting around my TV watching Christmas movies, trading their strawberry shortcake dolls. Sarah was the funny, sweet, precocious one of the group. I haven't seen Sarah in years, but I'm so thankful for all of the happy memories I have.
Hi everyone, my name is Anne, and I was Sarah's roommate for a couple of years in college, and we remained friends through adulthood. And one of my favorite memories of Sarah was we met our freshman year, and she had the dorm next to mine, and we actually have made some really great friends that we all kept in touch from our college dorm. But we all got ski passes our freshman year, and Sarah had her little red, Corolla, Celica, some kind of red Toyota convertible. And it's November. We're heading into Thanksgiving break for a week, and Sarah decides that she wanted to go skiing. And one of our cardinal rules in Colorado is you don't ski before Thanksgiving. There's just not enough snow. But Sarah, we all know Sarah was such a good student, so smart. She could sometimes afford to take a day off of class and catch right back up. And she convinced me to go skiing. So we drove up to Vail and we skied. There was hardly any snow, but the mountain was open. But for Sarah, my Wisconsin friend that moved to Colorado, she thought it was like the best day of her life, being in the Colorado mountains. And for me, I was like, this isn't real skiing. There's hardly even any snow. But we had lots of other good ski trips over college and even into adulthood. So I'll think of Sarah when I ski.
Hi, I'm Molly, Sarah's friend. We're just driving to pick up a kid from camp, and we just drove by a spot that reminded me of Sarah. So she decided that she wanted to go cross-country skiing, and so she picked this place that we just drove by. It's a kind of conifer, Colorado, and she decided we were going to meet up, and she'd pick up some cross-country skis, and she went to a rental place that was completely out of the way and picked up the cross-country skis, and I met her there, and it was 0 degrees out, so cold, and there was no snow on the ground. But there was snow on the ground in Highlands Ranch where she lived, so she thought, oh, we'd be fine to go cross-country skiing. It was so cold, we were hiking for a hike instead, and we had all of our gear on, our ski gear, goggles, our face was covered because it was wicked cold. And then Sarah went back to the ski shop, and they gave her money back, and they, it was fine, it wasn't a problem, so we didn't even use the rentals. But that's what Sarah was like. She just had something in her mind, and then we went ahead and did it, and she made it happen.
Hi, this is Anne. I wanted to just take a couple minutes here to tell a story about Sarah. Many of you know that we took German in middle school and high school, and throughout the years, our German kind of morphed into a language that we called dummy talk. It was a combination of German, gibberish, and the English language that I'm sure many of our family members and friends found extremely obnoxious. But that dummy talk also contributed to the formation of many nicknames throughout the years. The first of which is Sarah's nickname, which is Biga. And that was because her original nickname was Bag of Bones, because she was so skinny growing up and even into her adulthood. But that morphed into the nickname Biga. And my nickname was Ooh, which was short for Ann Veal, which again really doesn't make any sense. But those nicknames continued all the way into adulthood and bring smiles to all of our faces.
My name is Cecile. I'm Molly's daughter, and my mom was best friends with Sarah. We all called her, all of us kids, all of her kids called her Auntie Sarah. And my mom was super close with her, and so I've known her my entire life. And basically, so we would see her all the time. And when my sister and I would fight, because we fight a lot, she would always bring up the story of her and her sister and how they would always fight. But her sister would do like crazy things, and one of the things that she would do was put her, well, I guess she did it once, was put her in the washing machine. And we always laughed about it, and the first time I heard it, I was like shocked, and it was kind of cray, but it sounds like something that would happen to Auntie Sarah. But yeah.
Hi Mary, this is Karen Goodwin and the rest of the Stitt family. I've known Sarah almost her entire life. I remember when she was 9 months old and this cute, chubby little sputtering baby in Mary's arms the day I met Mary as our new neighbor in the neighborhood. And there were very few neighbors around here. And Sarah and Lindsay especially, and Heidi a little bit and Kyle a little bit, ended up growing up with my kids, Patrick and Brendan and Kimberly. There's barely a day that goes by that when I think of my kids, I don't think of Stitt kids also, because they did everything together. One of the funny memories I have of them is taking them down to the ice cream shop downtown Port. And of course, Sarah decided she wanted Blue Moon and then talked everybody else into getting Blue Moon because I said they couldn't have bubble gum because I didn't want it in their hair. So they all had Blue Moon, and it was a hot, hot day, and they were, by the time they were done, they were covered in Blue Moon, especially Sarah. It was in her hair, on her front of her dress, down her legs. It was everywhere. And a woman just looked at me and just kind of shook her head like, I can't believe it. And I had, how many kids? 3, 4, 5 kids covered in Blue Moon ice cream that I had to some way or another fit into my car and get home. And we did everything. We went to the Lego village. We did Christmas things together. We baked cookies. We swam on the beach with the kids. We did it, just about everything you can think of together. And I certainly will be missing Sarah especially, but I miss all of you guys a whole lot. Take care. Hugs and kisses.
Okay, so it's Lauren again. But I thought of another one as well, just as I was making the last video. So Aunt Heidi, a little bit further down, was talking about an outdoor movie screen held together with duct tape and a sheet, which, yeah, that took a lot of brains to put together on my mom's part. But there was another one where in 2020, Adelaide, her daughter, was visiting us because we were all doing online school. And my mom, at that point, we had actually bought like a big blow-up outdoor movie screen, and so we could actually watch movies on it, which was great. That eventually fell apart as well. She was obsessed with like getting us to do little adventure things because I think Adelaide was there and we were just bored of doing online school. She was bored of doing online work, and so yeah, she bought the giant outdoor movie screen. And we had a whole like movie night, and later Aunt Heidi and Michael came to visit us, and eventually we did that, but I think at that point it was probably broken as well. It was not the most durable thing in the world, but we had this idea, or mainly she had this idea, I just helped her contribute to it, to do like an outdoor block party. And so there was one night, only a couple neighbors came because we weren't very close with everybody in our neighborhood, but we put the outdoor movie screen on the street, and a couple of our neighbors came, and we just like watched an outdoor movie because of that inspiration that she had when Adelaide was visiting us. And another thing, adding on to that, because she wanted to just fill us with like fun things to do, she wanted to go to a concert at Red Rocks. And I don't know if any of you guys know who Deadmau5 is, but they're this like electronic band, group duo, kind of like techno music. And so she saw that they were like the only ones playing in that night. And so she booked us all tickets to go see it, but we had no idea what it was. We didn't know who Deadmau5 was at all. And so we go and see it, and we realize it's this techno concert at Red Rocks, and we're like, whoa, this is kind of insane. I think I was maybe like 14 or 15 at the time, so I had no idea like what a techno concert was or anything that it was like, but it was also freezing cold because it was in the winter. This was another time that Adelaide was visiting us, and it was just a wild thing because none of us knew what we were doing and none of us knew what it was, but she was having the time of her life. She was jumping around having fun as she usually was, because she wanted us to have fun too. But yeah, that was, I think, one of the first concerts at Red Rocks that I ever went to, and it was by accident. So yeah.
Hey everyone, my name is Joe. Recently I became friends with Sarah at the beginning of this year, and I couldn't think of any other place to really film this and had to take a moment to collect my thoughts, but where we are is the Red Rock Slide Trail. This is the last place I was in Sarah's presence. Came hiking up here with her, our friend Kelly, and her son Cannon. It's about a 4-mile hike round trip, or a loop, and it's a very, I'd say, pretty hike, and it's one of Sarah's favorites. She goes here, it's one of her go-tos, I would say. And basically, we were walking here, and like, we thought it'd be like a long hike. Randomly, like, out of the corner of our eyes, like, Sarah's like, check that thing out. It's like, what? And we looked up, and it's this deer that was like squatting in a bizarre position, like a dog. Like, what the heck's going on? We sat there and looked at it for like a minute, and apparently it was just pooping. So it was like, took some pictures, giggled about it, and like made the hike really short because it was something to giggle about along the trail. Miss her. You know, be well, everyone. Take care of each other.
Hi everyone, it's Carrie again. I have something, it's not so much a memory, but just something I really admired about Sarah is her love for travel and just really taking advantage of the opportunity to travel. As a fellow single mom, I just watched how she did it, and I was like, as my son gets older, like I'm doing it how Sarah does it. And so recently we started playing Where in the World is Biga instead of Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego. So she would send us pictures and we'd all have to guess where she was, like, because it was different all the time. It's like, are you in Brazil? Like, where are you? Are you in like Texas even? Are you in Mexico? And so it was fun. She was always going somewhere. And so it's a memory, and something I admired about her is, we always would say, where in the world is Biga?
I was just out on a walk with the dog in the woods near my house, and it got me thinking while I'm smelling all of this lovely smoky air that we're getting from the Canadian fires about some time that Biga and I spent way up in the North Woods growing up. We went to gymnastics camp up there called Lake Owen. A couple times we went with Lindsay Kruger and her sister Titi as well. But one year in particular, we went for a week of gymnastics camp, and then the second week we went for a week of adventure camp. And during the week of adventure camp, we learned how to go canoeing. And neither of us, I don't think, had ever canoed before. And I just remember getting in the canoe. It was just the two of us, and we couldn't keep up with the group because we kept paddling and going in complete circles, and because neither of us could figure out the correct rhythm and the correct side to paddle on when we were canoeing in order to go forward. So just wanted to share that funny memory.
Okay, so our family has always been kind of obsessed with hot tubs. Like wherever we are, we'll seek them out. And it was usually Sarah who would find the hot tub first and be fully immersed before any of us. And she had a way of breaking into hotel hot tubs that we weren't even staying at, finding the towels to make, the right towels that they had to make it look like we were staying there, instead of coming with your own towel, which would be obvious that you weren't. But we had this funny thing called hot tub moments. And it was that we could get anything out of anybody in the hot tub. Like secrets, all of a sudden they would open up, like you're sitting in this warm pool of water and you're all in a circle and you're relaxed. And so we just laughed our heads off and said, we got a hot tub moment on a kayak, or, stuff like that. Hot tubs were pretty magical for getting information out. Yeah, so that was fun.
Hi, I'm Kim Goodwin. I was Sarah. Sarah was my childhood best friend. I literally knew her from the day I was born. Our moms were friends. I think of so many fond memories of Sarah and I when we were kids. We took sailing together. We went to gymnastics camp together. We climbed each other's tree houses, caught fireflies in jars. Go to the beach, we'd roll down Sand Hill on the beach, full of sand. Oh my gosh. My mom mentioned a memory about Blue Moon ice cream, and I do think of Sarah with Blue Moon, but also we'd go down the Freshies and then go on to your dad's boat. And one time I loved bubble gum and I didn't want to get rid of the gum, and so Sarah told me to put it in my ear to hold on to it. And I did that. And I just think of, like, she was just like a big sister to me, the big sister I didn't have. There's just so many memories. Tea party, playing dress up, going trick-or-treating together, sleepovers, so many sleepovers. Every time I have grapefruit, I think of our mornings after a sleepover at the Stitt house. Grapefruit, half-cut grapefruit with sugar sprinkled on top, Brighton Cruiser. I think of just my whole first 10 years filled with so many great memories. I don't think I could have had a better childhood. And that was because Sarah was in it. All of you were in it. Lindsay, Heidi, Kyle, Mary. I love you all very much, and I'm sending you a big hug from Port Washington.
Hi everyone, I'm Marissa. I'm Sarah's close friend that you've seen maybe something about in her obituary that she helped a friend with cancer, so that was me. So I want to share stories about the things that she did when she was here, when she would visit me, when she was helping me. So when I first got diagnosed in November of 2020, she was one of the first people I called to see if they could come and help me, because I knew with her schedule and that she was more flexible to be able to come, and my boys just absolutely adored her, and the things that they would get into together are actually very hysterical. So the first time she came, there was a lot of things that occurred on this visit. She brought matching jammies for us, so that was really fun. Even though she always claimed like nothing ever fit her because she claimed she was such a giant. But just so everyone knows, real people's clothes did actually fit her. We confirmed that when she got her Marissa's Rack Pack sweatshirt that she was shocked fit her. I think she always thought she was much bigger than she was. I can't really figure that one out. But so the first time she came, we have a hot tub at our house. I live in Arizona. And so my husband had gotten the hot tub ready for her because we knew that she would like to go in the hot tub. She always liked to go in the hot tub. And I don't know how this happened. I don't even really recall this, other than she told me like 50 million times. But somehow we drained the hot tub. I've seen my husband drain the hot tub. It's not something that's super easy, and it takes like a tube. I don't know, but the next morning I know that we went out there and there was no water in the hot tub. On said same trip, she was going to get Drake, who she thought was Drake. So at the time, Drake was only 2 years old, and he was in my room with my husband and was sleeping with him. And so she was going, because I couldn't lift, she was going to get Drake to lift him and put him in his bed. And for some reason, she grabbed Frank. Now, my husband is not a tiny person by any means, and she went under like this, like a forklift, and thinking it was Drake, and tried to lift him. So she actually tried to lift my husband in the air. I don't know when we stopped laughing about that, because it's, as you can tell, it's still ridiculously funny to me. Because I can just imagine she was like, oh, all the sounds that she would make when something would happen that shouldn't have happened. But not only that, she provided so much laughter to me during that week that she was here. We ended up going to the Scottsdale Princess. We took her there so she could see Christmas at the Princess. And we did a hotel, because every time that I called her Biga, so sorry, I'm going to be referring to her a lot as that. But whenever she would come, she always wanted to do a night at a staycation in a hotel, even though I have a pool and a hot tub, but that was always her thing. And she always liked the Scottsdale Resort. That's where we always stayed. And on that same visit, that night when we got back from the Princess, she decided at maybe 11 p.m., maybe it was even midnight. Honestly, I don't really recall. I think I fell asleep with Drake, but her and Drake decided it was a really good idea to order pizza that late at night, and she fell asleep, which is something she did all the time. She'd always be like, I'm not going to fall asleep. I'm awake. I'm not going to fall asleep. And she always fell asleep on me. And so she fell asleep on Trey instead. And so this poor little 6-year-old had to go and answer the door to room service with these 2 pizzas, and she was asleep. So I woke up in the morning to find 2 full pizzas that nobody had eaten. So she did realize that was a bad idea, and that they probably didn't need the pizzas, which I confirmed was very accurate. And then the last piece to this trip was, for some reason I was very thirsty at the hotel. I didn't bring a water bottle with me, and for some reason I couldn't figure out where to fill my water, and she just found this to be hysterical. Because of her travel that she did quite frequently, she knew where to go to get water or whatever she may have needed when she was on trips. She knew where to go. She knew where to go to get water, and she never told me until the day of, and then she told me where to get water and then laughed hysterically for like 5 hours. So Needless to say that trip was absolutely amazing, and there was lots of laughter, and there was more trips to come that I'll be sharing through this series of all of the things that she did for me, for my family, for all of our friends. She was the absolute greatest friend in the world. She would do anything for anyone, and honestly, I'm so blessed that I had her in my life for as long as I did, and I look forward when I get to see her again.
I think the last time I saw Sarah was a few years ago at Thanksgiving. Maybe it was the night before Thanksgiving. The Ditt siblings were gathering, and as they so generously do, had invited me to come along and join the family. And so I hopped in my car and drove down to see them in Milwaukee. And I entered the bar, looked around for everybody, and I saw Sarah standing with Amy Jo, chatting. They were the first two I saw. And of course, everybody was there. And Sarah saw me and just lit up and was like, Maggie. And it made me feel so good. She just lit up a room, and those around her, I think, just became part of that aura and light. But I guess the funny thing is, she was looking so glamorous, and I had said, Sarah, you look great, it's so good to see you. She was wearing sunglasses inside the bar at night, and I thought, like, you know, why does she need sunglasses at night inside? And she's like, oh, I know, I couldn't find my prescription glasses, so this is what I have. They're my prescription sunglasses. And that was it. She wore them. She may have found her glasses later, but she didn't care. She just was happy and looked amazing and was glowing.
Hi, it's me again. It's Carrie from high school. Others have mentioned how thoughtful Sarah was, and I just had another memory. Our friend Marissa with breast cancer came up to stay with me in Seattle to see an expert in breast cancer, and so she came up here, and our friend Molly surprised Marissa, and all the others wanted to come, but everyone had other stuff going on. And so one thing that Sarah and I had in common was we loved Instacart. And the night that Molly and Marissa showed up, the car showed up later, and I was like, what is going on? Like, is another person surprising her? And it was Instacart, and it was so thoughtful. She just wanted us to have like snacks and whatnot, so there were like chips and crackers, and then it just was like random stuff, like a face mask, and then a puzzle. So this was in the Instacart, and you know, none of us are really puzzle people, so it was very random, but it was so thoughtful. And just recently, our friend Molly pointed out the puzzle itself is called A Moment on Memory Lane. And so I'm keeping the puzzle, and hopefully we will all do it together as friends one day.
Hi, I'm Amanda, one of Sarah's high school friends. I'd say we just really kind of reconnected the last few years when we were planning a 40th trip to Mexico, and then COVID happened, and so we had to replan it. And in that time, we just kind of started a text thread, and there's just a few of us, and every day there'd be something, someone sharing something about their day, about their family. And it was just such a nice breath of fresh air for us girls to have that and reconnect in our middle age. We hadn't seen each other for a while. We all live so far away. And Sarah was such a nice piece of that because her wit and her humor is just, I have never laughed so hard at text messages, out loud, just her humor. She could take a situation like, I think her heat broke in her house, and she could take that situation and somehow have us all like rolling on the floor laughing, like because of how she's going about like fixing it or taking care of it. And, she's so smart, she's so intelligent, she gets it done and she does it. But in the meantime, she has a lot of fun like doing it along the way. And I think that was just such a neat characteristic about her, is that she could just take anything and, take her sarcasm and take her humor and just roll with it and deal with it and, and just make everyone have fun with it. Even, she just is so thoughtful too. Like the other day I was saying I was having some nauseousness, and she's saying, oh, you should get some ginger. And a couple days later in the mail I get a package from Sarah with some ginger chews, just because that will help ease my stomach. She's just such a thoughtful friend, and we will miss her humor and her thoughtfulness all the time.
It was Thanksgiving 2020, and my daughter Adelaide was in her freshman year at Arizona State. This was COVID, and she actually couldn't come home for Thanksgiving because she had potentially been exposed to COVID. So think about that, your freshman year Thanksgiving. So Sarah, of course, wants to help, so she calls up her friend Marissa, who lives nearby Adelaide, and next thing we know, there's a drive-by delivery homemade Thanksgiving treat for Adelaide. This is just the kind of thing that Sarah does, mobilizes her friend network for anyone in need.
In the last week, when I have been thinking of Sarah, I find myself remembering her as a little girl. I met Lindsay and the Stitt family when I was 7, so Sarah was 4. And I actually barely remember life without the Stitt siblings because they've been a part of my life for so long. But Sarah, she was always hanging around. She was tagging along. She wanted to do whatever Lindsay and I were doing. And sometimes we let her and sometimes we didn't. One year, she texted me for my birthday and she showered me with compliments. Happy birthday to the most fabulous, jet-setting, successful, kind people I have the pleasure of calling friend. And then ended it with, even though you and TD used to kick me out for trying to play Cabbage Patch Kids with you, I forgive you. And you can just like see her deadpan face with all seriousness saying that to your face. But I think somehow I knew this precocious little sister would end up to be my friend and personal cheerleader. If I was having a rough day at work, she'd say, screw them, you're better than they are. And when I finally got the job that I had been wanting in New York and was able to move, she was nothing but excited and she wanted to know all the details. And she'd say, you're living your dream, you're going to be Carrie Bradshaw. Because Sarah not only loved living her own life to the fullest, but she wanted everyone to know that feeling. And she was truly in your corner.